Hey everybody, welcome back to the Court of Random Opinion. My name is Lauren Neidigh. This morning, Blake Lively submitted a letter to the judge asking for leave to file a response to the Wayfarer parties who had opposed Blake Lively's motion to compel. The motion to compel in question was seeking documents, witness recordings, and other materials related to a third-party investigation into Blake Lively's claims of sexual harassment and other misconduct on the set of It Ends With Us. Blake Lively made no formal complaints and submitted no formal allegations of sexual harassment while working on the set of It Ends With Us. When she first made a formal complaint with the CCRD in December 2024, this triggered Wayfarer to start a third-party investigation into her allegations. That investigation started in January 2025, about 5 months ago, and is still ongoing. The investigation is conducted by outside firms, and Wayfarer is not given any of the materials or information from this investigation until its conclusion, a fact that they told Blake Lively's attorneys on May 10th, but the Lively parties for some reason felt it appropriate to file a motion to compel Wayfarer to give them documents they knew they don't have anyways. Wayfarer responded to that effect, telling the judge, "We don't have what they're asking for, and we informed them that we don't have what they're asking for," and again reiterated that the investigation was ongoing. Lively had tried to shut this down entirely, sending a cease and desist to the firm. She also refused to participate in the investigation and declined to give names of witnesses she felt should be interviewed. Mind you, part of this investigation that she almost certainly finds most disturbing is whether or not she made any actual complaints in the first place. She's now made it clear that she intends to continue to fight this and is seeking documents and witness recordings from the investigation that is again still ongoing, which threatens to scare witnesses who are voluntarily participating and potentially sway them from being totally honest and disclosing everything that may or may not have happened. The firms conducting the investigation made it clear that this was an issue as it may chill witness candor and also threatens the neutrality of the operation. This morning's filing itself doesn't really tell us much of anything, but it brings up a much larger and more important issue that I wanted to talk about. Blake Lively and her attorneys are arguing that this investigation is a charade and it shouldn't be happening at all. They claim that an investigation should have been opened up back when complaints were made and the behaviors alleged were happening. Here's the problem with that. First and foremost, there was no formal complaint made. She gave a return to demands document to Wayfarer to sign, or else she would refuse to comply with the rest of filming and the promotion of the film. So the people who were forced to sign this document didn't really have a choice. But on the other hand, she clearly had all the power in this situation, and she explicitly did not want an investigation or a formal complaint made. These people were now on the hook to do whatever she wanted, and if they did things in a way that she didn't like, it might just blow up their entire project and fuck with a whole bunch of people's livelihoods. So opening an investigation against her wishes was not really an option. Think back to what was written in the amended complaint. It was clear that Wayfarer would have to sign the document as is, despite the falsity of its insinuations. The alternative was to lose millions of dollars, cost hundreds of people their jobs after they had been out of work for months because of the strikes, and destroy their relationship with Sony. Nonetheless, the demands themselves were agreeable. Indeed, some were already in place. And as an example of how bogus this was and how it wasn't an actual complaint, just a list of demands, remember that she demanded there be an intimacy coordinator present when an intimacy coordinator had already been engaged the entire time. She in fact just refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator. In May 2023, Wayfarer was made aware that Lively had placed a call to the film's Sony executive to share a few grievances. Baldoni and Heath were told that, during the call, the Sony executive asked Lively if she wanted to take any formal action regarding her remarks. Lively responded that she was not interested in pursuing anything formally. Following the conversation, the Sony executive informed Baldoni and Heath of Lively's narrative, both of whom were stunned by the framing of events. In her later CRD complaint, filed more than a year and a half later, Lively distorted the nature of this call, claiming she had contacted the Sony executive specifically to file an HR complaint and was told Sony was powerless to act. This account is highly dubious, as Lively's pattern of successfully getting her demands met makes it difficult to believe she would have been dissuaded so easily from pursuing formal action if that had been her true intent. Moreover, Sony immediately informed Wayfarer, stated the complaints were not sexual in nature, that Lively did not want to file a formal complaint, and that she simply wanted to bring it to their attention so that they would be more mindful going forward. Certainly, had she filed a complaint, Wayfarer would have formally addressed any issues. The circumstances here were pretty clear. She had them by the balls. That means you give her what she wants, and you don't go against her wishes, meaning you don't randomly open up an investigation despite the fact that she says she doesn't want one. And while all that alone is terrible, because these people in my opinion, do not seem to be guilty of anything that they've been accused of. There are some other complicated sides to this. This is something I brought up to my friend Zach Peter yesterday when he had me on his show, but I want to reiterate why I feel like so many people have an emotional reaction to a lot of this stuff, and I'm not immune to that. When you or a loved one or a friend, whatever, has been through something awful with sexual harassment or sexual abuse, and that can leave someone feeling very fearful and powerless and embarrassed, and you or they wished to God at that time that they had the protections in place that Blake Lively was afforded. It's pretty frustrating to see somebody consistently say, no, I don't want an investigation, no, I don't want this or that, and then later go on talk shows and make speeches about how she's such a champion for women and girls' safety, all while she apparently decided to forgo those protections multiple times because she didn't want people to find out that she wasn't being honest in her claims. And this person is now, again, sending a cease and desist, trying to stop a third-party investigation into what she claims happened. That can be a frustrating thing to see. Stuff like this is also causing people to have such a visceral reaction to each other online. On the one hand, you have a bunch of people who don't want to believe that somebody would lie about something as serious as sexual harassment or some kind of abuse. And so from what I can tell, they'll do their damnedest to protect those people that they believe are vulnerable, especially if they feel like they can relate to that themselves. On the other hand, you have a bunch of people who are looking at what's out there and looking at the facts and saying, this does not add up. And those people who can also unfortunately relate to going through abuse or harassment feel like they want to do their part to protect the people who need the systems we have in place and the laws that we have in place so that no one else in the future has to go through some of what they went through. I do think people dogpile on each other so hard because the root of all of this is such a personal issue. I think it's hard not to look past just the two main people involved here, which people do care to protect, like someone that they believe is good and who doesn't deserve the beating they're taking in the press, no matter which side you fall on. But it's hard not to look past all that and think, what are the larger implications here for somebody else who might someday be in a situation like this, though granted without the publicity. I think another thing is that people do all this crazy work making these huge character assumptions about people online because they have different opinions. And I can only speak for myself. I can't tell you really where anyone else is coming from, but it's super frustrating to lay out why you think something is wrong or why something doesn't add up, and then to have somebody dismiss that as, oh, you're an internalized misogynist because you don't believe this woman who says she was harassed. And that's one of the friendlier responses, because I get all kinds of colorful messages in my inbox. Eventually it dawned on me that I can't just sit here and explain myself to every single person who has a problem with something that I say. That's not healthy. I'm not going to do that. Most of those people don't want to engage in any sort of meaningful conversation anyways, but I will say this now. Coming from a place of having been through some awful things when I was younger, and I felt like there was nowhere for me to go, I felt pretty helpless. I felt like there was a lot of shame that came with that, and that I just had to take it. Coming from a place of, well, nobody's going to believe what I say because I did XYZ, and that just looks bad, or what reason would anyone have to believe me? I don't like saying that I think someone's lying about being sexually harassed. I don't like saying that somebody's lying about being sexually abused. But I've been following a couple of these cases where this is a major issue. And based on what's in front of me, yes, that's what I believe. If I say that, it's because I've taken everything that I've seen, everything that I know, and I really believe that's the truth. And I think what a lot of people will fail to realize is that I don't take any pleasure in saying somebody's lying about something like that, and I don't know anyone who does. It's a painful thing to experience. It's a painful thing to be afraid that no one will believe you, and then it's a painful thing to then turn around and be the person to say to someone else or about someone else, you're a liar, knowing that you're now doing the exact thing that you were afraid of other people doing to you all that time ago. That shit hurts, and it hits hard. So that's not something I'm going to say or do lightly. It's not something I'm going to say unless I really believe what I'm saying. I'm not going to do like a quick skim of one document and think, oh, well, maybe this person's lying, so fuck it. I keep my opinions on heavy issues, on really political issues, to myself until I'm certain. But people's split-second visceral reactions to that can be very overwhelming. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't attack people with different opinions just for having them, because I feel like we're trying to simplify some really complex issues, and I do wish people would be more considerate of that. My criticisms are going to be directed towards the people whose foul behavior I believe are ruining a good person's life, not to weirdos in my DMs or Taylor Swift profile picture accounts on Twitter. So yeah, I guess that was my brain salad for the day. I just wish more people could see and respect how complicated some of these things are. But that's all I got for now. I'll see you guys soon.